Hey, I'm so glad you're here today with me. You're probably going to want to write some of this stuff down. But today, I know the holidays are coming and it can be such a stressful time of year. But what we need to do is we need to plan, because the more we plan and the more we prepare for these visits that could be awkward, and we put so much time into them, the more that we plan, the better off the event is going to be. So I want to give you today, I'm going to give you my 6 best tips for a holiday visit with your person with dementia. So, and again, we have to plan for this trip, right? So we all want to have the best memories and the best holiday, and we're planning our outfits and we're cleaning the house and we're cooking and we're picking out the perfect gift, and we just want everything to go perfect. And, sometimes that's a little unrealistic. So the first thing I want to say to you before I even get into the tips is try to lower those expectations just a teeny weeny bit, right? Because the higher you go in and when it crashes, the harder it falls. So try to go in with a little less expectations, and just kind of, plan for the unexpected to happen. And then it's not such a big letdown. I do have another whole video about this topic, the 6 tips, but it's much, much more expanded. So I definitely recommend that you look that video up after this one. It's called Dementia and the Holidays. So, when we talk about that perfect holiday and that Norman Rockwell, scene, and there's nothing wrong with wanting to have a beautiful, wonderful holiday. But we always know there's probably going to be a few glitches along the way. So my first tip for you is to limit the number of people that you invite to the event. So if you have a person with dementia who is coming or lives with you and they're going to be at the holiday celebration, try to limit the number of people. So when someone has dementia, when there's too many people, too many conversations going on, they can get overwhelmed very easily. They cannot tune out one conversation and focus on another one. To them, it's all coming at them at the same time. So in order to help reduce their stress level and yours, trying to limit the number of guests is a great idea. Another one is, you can have a whole separate celebration with maybe just a couple of really close family members and the person with dementia. Tip number 2 is to keep the visit short. 2 to 3 hours really is about max for someone with dementia. People who have Alzheimer's or another related dementia, they need to balance activities with rest. So 2 to 3 hours should really be about the maximum. If your person is starting to show signs that they're getting overwhelmed or upset, then either try to have a designated quiet area that they can go to and retreat. Some people don't have enough room to be able to do something like that, but if you do, that's a great idea to have something prepped and ready, maybe with some of their favorite magazines or picture books to look at, some really nice quiet music, low lighting, a nice soft blanket that they can kind of maybe take a rest. So having that designated quiet area is a really great idea. Or just, be prepared to end the visit early. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's time to go, and just call it a day. Tip number 3 is typically people with Alzheimer's or dementia, they typically do better earlier in the day. As the day goes on and they get tired, they may not be at their best. So if you could change the time of day to earlier, would be probably beneficial for the person with dementia. You will find them at their best. Another really interesting thing, and this goes along with tip number 1 with limit guests, is you could maybe do a holiday brunch or a breakfast. And that way you've got the time of day that is best for the person with dementia. You can limit the guest list, and having it earlier in the day, probably most of you have family members that need to split their time up between multiple families. And this gives them an opportunity to do that, right? Because they can come and do your event in the morning or really early afternoon, and then still have all of the late afternoon and evening to spend with other families if they're trying to split up their time. The tip number 4 is conversation ideas. So, if you're going to have someone there at your party or your celebration or your holiday who has dementia, and you're inviting people who maybe don't have a lot of experience with people who have Alzheimer's, give them a few pointers. You want your guests to feel comfortable too, right? I mean, you want your person with dementia to feel comfortable, but you also want your guests to feel comfortable. So just kind of let them know what the person might be like, right? So tell them, if you just smile at them and, they're going to read your facial expressions. So just tell them just to smile and maybe use shorter sentences and let them know that the person may not be able to talk about more recent events or current events, and to try to talk about more things that maybe happened in the past or subjects that everyone is familiar with. So give your guests a few little conversation tips. The next thing I want to talk about, this one is really good, is number 5. This one also involves kind of educating your guests a little bit. Make sure that they know that the person with dementia may not remember their name, and let them know that it's okay, that they'll recognize that they're somebody that they know, or they may recognize that they're a nice person, but they may not remember their name. And also let them know if your person with dementia has particular behaviors that might come up during the party. Let them know about those behaviors ahead of time so that they're not shocked or concerned. So if your person loves to tear paper, or maybe they repeat themselves, let your guests know that these behaviors may come up, and let them know that it's perfectly normal and not to worry about it. Tip number 6, and this is my all-time favorite. Okay, tip number 6. Are you ready? Have a designated angel or designated angels at the party. Now, what do I mean by that? So a designated angel would be a particular person who is kind of in charge of keeping track and keeping an eye on the person with dementia. This way, the host can still be the host and concentrate on her guests and her food and the drinks and the coats and everything else that she's trying to manage, and not necessarily also have to take on making sure that that person with dementia is okay and safe. So you could pick one or multiple people. They could maybe take turns, like a couple hours and a couple hours. Of course, again, we're going to try to keep that visit 2 to 3 hours. So getting some people to commit ahead of time to being the designated angel. And they would be the person with dementia's protector. And so that person would be responsible to make sure that they don't wander off, right? We want to make sure that they're safe. We want to make sure that if the person with dementia is starting to show signs that they're overwhelmed, then it's time to end the visit, right? Let's just end the visit before things get out of control and everything turns into a nightmare. So end the visit on a high note. Another one is this designated angel would make sure that the person with dementia feels included. A lot of times they end up kind of off to the side because they can't follow conversations, or they're getting overwhelmed, or they're not sure what they should be doing. So your designated angel can make sure that the person with dementia is feeling included. I think that this designated angel is something that everyone should really have on their radar. So in general, the holidays, we get so hyped up about the holidays, but just try to lower those expectations even just a little bit. And again, I have a much more detailed video of this. I think it's maybe about 10-12 minutes long It's been getting great feedback, which is why I decided to do a little shorter version of it. But you know, a successful holiday visit can really just turn everything around. We want everyone to feel included. We want everyone to have a good time. And these 6 little tips, they could really help you out. So watch the longer version. It's called Dementia and the Holidays. And please subscribe. I'm very close to my goal of getting more subscribers, so please subscribe. And I will see you next time. I hope you have a wonderful, peaceful holiday.